Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to. Perhaps a lot of you saw the trailer for the movie Sausage Party. No, of course you didn't. You just saw the title, the catchphrases, and started reading the YouTube comments like everyone else. I remember a ton of people sending me links declaring it the new food fight. But much to the surprise of, every single person who ever lived, it was actually getting good reviews. No, not just good, great. Word of mouth started spreading as well, and soon the movie became a hit. Why? Because apparently the movie has clever satire, thought-provoking commentary, and a scenario that helps make its point. This movie. This got me thinking recently.
Why start now?
I've taught you well that this isn't the first time this has happened. There's been several movies and shows that have been popping up over the past several years that seem like mindless nonsense, but either slowly or quickly reveal themselves to be smarter than they look. With many of them doing well, more and more have been popping up out of the woodwork. So this begs the question, is weird the new brilliant? With so much media that seems like junk food for the brain, is there some junk food that's secretly sneaking in some healthy stuff? I started thinking about movies and shows that were doing a lot of this, and quite frankly, a lot of them seem to be animated. Popular shows like Adventure Time or Steven Universe have been praised for years for their in-depth look at identity and how it relates to social norms, whether it be family, friendship, or how viewing oneself can affect others as well as you. But if you were to put that on the summary of the show, very few kids would probably watch it. Hell, probably not even that many adults. Therefore, Adventure Time is about a teenage boy who wears fluffy white ears and a zany dog who can change into anything, and their wacky shenanigans in the magical land of Ooo. But since it's a magical land, you can do whatever you want. So maybe someone magically makes smaller versions of everyone that can be put under your control. Thus, we can explore how much a seemingly loving person can give or take when in complete power. Or maybe a magical crown that takes away your memory can serve as a heartbreaking allegory for Alzheimer's, and the empathetic tragedy that people suffer from it. These are things that spiraled out of a show that started like this.
Listen to Jake, Finn. He only wants what's best for
Steven Universe is the same way. It starts off with a little boy who has a gem in his belly trying to show these three alien women how life on Earth works. And the first episode focuses on an ice cream treat called Cookie Cat, while once in a while stopping an alien invasion and singing a song. Doesn't sound that mentally complex. But again, as the show continues, we discover the gems can transform you, both physically and mentally, and combine with other people. The themes they explore here are an existentialist wet dream. Themes about intimacy, gender identification, puberty, sex, childhood becoming adulthood. The list goes on. Again, all beginning with an episode focusing on him wanting a Cookie Cat ice cream. All seems kind of insane. It doesn't always have to be symbolic though, sometimes it could just be straightforward. Shows like Avatar and My Little Pony are very direct with what they're trying to teach. Avatar takes place in a fantasy world where people have Captain Planet powers and want to stop an evil bad guy from taking over the world. Yeah, sounds pretty standard. In fact, almost boring. But on top of having a great sense of humor and creative visuals, the show teaches kids, and arguably adults, about Eastern philosophies, religion, medicine, and even martial arts moves. All the poses shown are based on real styles of martial arts. They even hired martial arts masters for models. In the case of My Little Pony, a show that started off as a remake of what many people consider a forced excuse to sell toys, and that's from the people who liked it, had transformed it into practically an educational show about emotions and social interactions. The story takes place in a land of ponies, and one is sent to study the benefits of friendship. Yeah, sounds like Care Bear's greeting card fodder, right? Well, in this show, they actually do analyze it, seriously looking at the benefits of kindness, the varying levels of it, and when to use each variation. It's easy just to say be nice and that's it, but this show actually looks at the different challenges that comes with it. It isn't just a blanket term, it's explored and analyzed. So much so that the majority of the fan base are grown men, not girls. This is a show that was doing its job so well that it hit on a fan base that they weren't even aiming for originally. And now it turns out to be most of them. And all this comes from a show that just wanted to sell some toys in the 80s. Who the hell could have seen this coming? Kids' films nowadays are the same way. Kung Fu Panda is a Jack Black animated comedy teaching kids about dealing with suffering and how to turn it into something progressive. The Lego Movie is really a connection to a son's relationship with his father. And good lord, we could talk about the Pixar movies forever, giving us cute and silly ideas that sneak in emotional and psychological issues without kids even realizing it. But this idea of working commentary into nonsense isn't just for kids. On top of examples like Sausage Party, BoJack Horseman might be the greatest TV show in years. And on the surface, you'd swear I was making that up. It's about a horse who had a cheesy sitcom in the 80s. Yeah, that's right, a horse. Half the people are animals on the show. There's no reason for it. The whole series focuses on the impact that the show had on him, particularly depression and dozens of addictions, and how it also impacts the people around him. The show starts off almost mockingly silly, relying on shock value jokes and classic little problems that are blown out of proportion. But as we get more comfortable with the characters, their more troubled sides are shown. And oftentimes, instead of punchlines, we're given harsh realities. Yeah, harsh realities in a show about a talking horse. It's like finding out Mr. Ed was bipolar. What's so shocking about this show is not only does it do the dramatic side well, but it does it better than any show I've seen on television. The comedy is strong, surreal, and clever, allowing us to enjoy these people. So when it really comes time to talk about the inhumane side all of them are capable of, it's really tough to get through, in a good way. It is disturbing, it does take you out of your comfort zone, and it does it in a totally bizarre and intriguing way. Maybe the constant reminder that set in the false world of Hollywood is what helps us see past the gimmick of talking animals. Maybe because we're so aware Hollywood is an illusion but forget the people behind it are real feeling creatures helps us identify with such a strange and hostile environment. It takes you to places you didn't think you would go to, are afraid to go to, and then come out having confronted something you never thought you would have confronted. All from BoJack 100% on Rotten Tomatoes Horseman. Where did this all come from? That these childish and dumb ideas can lead to deep and complex issues? It's hard to say for sure. I guess shows like South Park kind of paved the way, looking like the cheapest, lowest brow humor that over time surprisingly turned into one of the great commentators. Because there were so low expectations, there was a freedom to do whatever they wanted. And not only did the creators know how to get people's attention, but they knew how to say something funny and interesting while they had your attention. But hell, you could go back further and point to The Simpsons. When they first came out, it was dismissed as crude shock humor. Yeah, The Simpsons were seen as shock humor. Years later though, we still quote their ingenious comedy, and yet we still have no idea why they're yellow or how their hair somehow becomes their skin. We all just kind of accept something that's silly. TV-wise, you could even point to The Twilight Zone. A spooky show of scary twists that often has a dark satire on the human condition. I guess even comics can be thrown into that. Batman, Superman, and a ton of the Marvel stories are all being hailed now as the new Greek mythologies, with a lot of challenging ideas both psychologically and culturally. It's even been kind of a big thing in literature. Lord of the Rings and Narnia have a lot of religious connections for stories about wizards and magic. Animal Farm is obviously telling the rise of Stalin and communism, even though it's just about a bunch of barnyard animals. Even Wizard of Oz is technically an allegory on the populist movement. Yeah, no joke. There's actually a whole other layer that many of us miss. So I guess the real question is, if it can be done so well, when is it done poorly? I've gotten a lot of hate for saying this, but for me, it's films like Signs, District 9, and the Matrix films. The reason being, if you took the very obvious allegory out, the stories don't make any sense. There's a ton of plot holes, focusing issues, and character choices that don't add up. They focus so hard on what they're trying to say with their symbolism that they're forgetting to give you characters you like, choices you understand, and a narrative that makes sense. This is why the examples I listed before do work. They want you to like the characters first. They want you to feel like you could live in these worlds. They want to make you laugh. They want you to have fun. That way, when they slowly work their way to the more profound scenes, you're emotionally there with them. You give a crap. You're invested because they were given time to sink in. I don't care what happens to Neo, he's as dull as a plank of wood. If I don't get invested in the world or the characters first, I'm not gonna care what you're trying to say with them. Maybe that's why so many of these brilliant ideas are animated. Because for so many of us, that's the first thing we see. We grow up with cartoons, they hold a certain place in our hearts, so they'll immediately get an emotional reaction when something happens to them. Some people can't get into animation and only see it as kid stuff, and that's a shame because a lot of kid stuff is acting more adult recently. Even the Looney Tunes and Rocky and Bullwinkle snuck in a lot of adult jokes. And they did it because they knew they had a medium where they could. And with all the technology that's available to us now, we are seeing worlds that can exist much faster and much better looking than we ever imagined. Maybe that's why so many of these weird but brilliant stories are happening right now. We certainly had a couple here or there in the past, but now it seems like there's more than ever. And many of them are still going. They know now that they can do it, and that people will watch, and continue to watch. Their minds are open to being entertained, but also questioned. They want to see a horse get drunk and act like an ass, but they also want him to wonder if there's any hope for himself. I don't know if this is just a trend or if these kind of stories will keep going, but one thing is for sure, they got our attention now, and they're doing a pretty good job keeping it. I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy, remember? So you don't have to. Coming next week is the third animated Titanic movie. Yes, it exists, you've asked for it for years, and I'm finally gonna give in. But you can see it now under Vessel's ad-free early access. Just $3 a month to see tons of people's videos early, as well as a bunch of other extra features. Check it out and get the early scoop.